I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're exploring the power of unexpected connections and life-altering moments with a terrific author. Her name is Sheila Mulvenney, and she has penned a wonderful book. It is called 5 Days in February. This moving novel follows Izzie, a young girl whose brief encounter with Seb, a boy from a very different world, sets off a chain of events that challenges everything she thought she knew about family, privilege, and empathy. It is a timely and emotional story that highlights how a single week can ripple through our lives forever. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today. We ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her thoughtful book. The links are below this interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Sheila, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you on the show. This book is so powerful, feels very real. Is it inspired at all by real events? Tell us a little bit about the genesis.
It's absolutely inspired by real events. It isn't a true story in the sense of following a linear series of real events, but most of the things that I talk about were real events with different people that I kind of put together into a narrative. Yeah. So very definitely inspired by real events.
Wonderful. As we say in this country, the story you're about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. That's the
Absolutely.
big disclaimer we do. And of course, some was embellished by imagination, I'm sure, as well, which is great. Did your background working with children help shape the characters?
I think that was the main impetus, really. Well, I suppose a mixture of my background working with some children who really had a lot of challenges, weren't able to live with their parents, like Seb, but also children, I suppose, a little bit like my own children. And again, it's not an account of them, but children who do have warm, loving families and most of their basic needs met. And I think if you grew up like that, you think that is the case for everyone. Yeah. So I suppose part of what I wanted to do was it's written predominantly, it's an adult book, but it is written for kind of older teenagers because I think a lot primarily got along in their fairly privileged, comfortable lives and don't realize that that's not the case for everyone that they see. All the other children, maybe the other children in their class, maybe, in most schools, there'll be some children that are in public care. Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you decide to have them come from very different lives? Why was that contrast important to you to have people take a look at the different perspectives and different lifestyles of people and how it might impact their lives?
Well, I think as a society, we're quite judgmental. I think we can look at people that aren't from our same section of society and make all sorts of judgments. So, for an example, some people might feel, and I remember working with young children, young people in care, where some people would feel very threatened simply because they were a couple of boys together with their hoods up that might look a bit menacing. Now, of course, some of them might be, but an awful lot aren't. And
Right.
during the course of my teaching and working with children who often came from very underprivileged, quite deprived and difficult environments, actually, an awful lot, vast majority are wonderful. It doesn't mean that sometimes they don't do things that are come from the extremes of their circumstances, but I think it's quite good to have our views of other people in society challenged. And I suppose partly that was what I wanted to do in the book because there's this phrase I'm sure you've heard something like don't you've walked 2 moons in someone's moccasins. Yeah, it's very easy to make judgments without understanding what the background is of that young person or indeed that adult.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you hope readers take away about vulnerable young people from this story?
I suppose very much the fact that some are vulnerable. Yeah, that what you see, you do not know what has led them to that point. So, you might see a young lad sitting on the street, maybe begging, maybe looking the worse for wear in terms of alcohol or something. And it's very easy to make a judgment. But actually, if you knew the stories that had led them there, and obviously I don't go into great depth about what had happened with Seb, but hopefully there's enough for them to see that. There were, there were the factors in his background that caused his behavior. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's good to understand where people are coming from in order to help them on their path to where they're
Mm,
going, no
mm,
doubt. Talk to us a little bit about the power of connection, even
yeah.
brief ones in a person's life.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are social beings. We are wired for connection. And I think that's very evident throughout that. Although there were mistakes, I think, that Izzie made. She made certain choices based on the fact that she couldn't talk to her parents one night because they were busy and ended up kind of carrying this herself. But, her drive to connect, even to Seb, who was very much outside her sort of circle that she'd have peers that she'd have come across. Was laudable, really. And I think, there are a lot of people we have powerful connections. It's like a web all around us. And that's what's supportive. And unfortunately, sometimes for the children who can't live with their own families, they miss out on
Mm.
that web of connections. So I think I wanted to kind of highlight that, but also the fact that what one person does within that web can cause ripples that go out. So, what she did caused impact on lots of the people around her, both her friends and ultimately, family and things like that. Yeah.
Let's give the folks at home a little bit of an overview of the story.
Of course. So this is a story about a girl, Izzie, who is a teenager. And I did try to get into the mind, it's a long time ago for me, to get into the mind of a teenage girl again. And, she's got an exciting life. She's met this boy that she really likes. And she's very interested in dance and wants to pursue her career in that. She's got a good friend. She's well liked at school. And she's got parents that very much care for her. So quite a kind of privileged background in that sense, yeah. And then one day she meets this young lad hiding in her Wendy house in the garden who has come from a residential children's home not far away because he wants to kind of get out of there because there's a boy there who kind of winds him up. And during the course of that relatively short period of time, she gets to know him quite well because he comes into that place a lot. And it causes quite a lot of disruption in her life because at one point, he has a sister who has, I suppose, quite a boyfriend who's a bit violent. They are also all within the care system, and one of them has been misusing some substances, which gave rise to the violence. And this starts to impact on Izzie's life. And for very, I think, understandable reasons, she never told anyone about meeting this boy in the shed. She was
Mm.
going to one night, but it's compounded by the fact that her mother's a social worker. And her mother had had a tough day dealing with exactly these kind of issues. And she kind of felt she couldn't burden her further, I think. And I
Mm.
think that's an important theme for teenagers as well, because whatever the issues are, parents would usually try to help if they knew. But of course, you have to let them in, don't you? So it just follows what happens then with these, I suppose, three quite underprivileged kids and Izzie and her friends and the impact that has around them. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's a great story. It's a powerful story. It's one that I think young people need to hear and parents need to hear
Mm,
as well,
yeah.
because their lives of their teenage children can sometimes be mysteries to them, don't you think?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Indeed, and I don't think they want it to be that way. And I
No.
don't think young people want to necessarily push them out. It is that old thing, is we've got to kind of make time for them, make time for those conversations. Because if we put across the idea as parents, well, I'm a grandparent now, but if you put across the idea that it's too busy to talk to them, then actually you miss out. They might not, and that might have consequences for them.
Yes, absolutely. Talk to us a little bit about how the book challenges assumptions and prejudices that many people hold.
Well, I think the main thing is around children that are in the care system. I think there can be a bit of a feeling when they're older that these are kind of, I mean, the kind of words that are often used are kind of delinquents or trouble, thugs, or because, but sometimes they are put in positions where they literally have to kind of fight for survival, not necessarily physically, but their whole life. This boy was in a residential care home, not an unusual story in the sense that he was being kind of picked on, I think, by some of the other
Mhm.
kids there, so chose to escape. But what you see is a boy that's out on the streets in the middle of the night, and you think, well, what on earth's going on? But actually, there is a reason, I think, behind everybody's behaviour. We might not be very clear about what it is, but he was behaving in a way that when you knew the background, that was quite logical. He was getting out of trouble by doing that, yeah, because he was a bit afraid he was going to thump these other kids, which would have led to further consequences for him, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you envisioned this book as a film or a series, perhaps?
I think it would be marvelous to be a film because I think I still work quite a lot with some young people, and I think unfortunately there are some that are readers, but they are often used, they find the medium of film and TV often a lot easier. I think it would be brilliant if that could happen, because I think it would access, a lot more young people could access it, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, access is the key word there, but you've created the work, you've put it out there, so hopefully it finds its way into the right person's hands and somebody wants to turn this
Great.
into a film because I think it would be terrific as well. What's next for you as a writer? Are you thinking about writing anything else? You're working on a sequel? Tell us a little bit about your work.
Well, I have written a couple of books before, which were non-fiction books, one for teachers and one all about mindset. And those areas do still interest me. But when I wrote this, I did think there were various options on sequels. I think we could look at what happens to Izzie. We could also look at what happened to Seb. There are various different stories within there. So yes, I think I would. I'm thinking already about a sequel. I haven't got much actually down on paper, but I
Right.
find that if I'm in the car, I'm doing things, my mind is sort of thinking about what plot lines there might be.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, I think you've got a lot to work with there. And like you said, you've got great characters that you could just follow their journeys, no doubt. Um, 5 days in February. I think February is my least favorite month.
Yeah.
It's my birth month, but still,
Oh, there you go.
it's a dreary month. It's gray,
Mm.
it's cold, it's not spring, it's kind of the dead of winter. It's 5 days in February. What does it mean to you, and why did you call it that?
I think I wanted to convey that life can change in very small periods of time. So I
Mm,
wanted it to be quite sort of concentrated, really, because I think sometimes, and I've seen this happen in the lives of young people, you can get one event that leads to another event that leads to another event, and by the end of the week, life is very different, either
yeah.
much more positive or much less so by the end of the week. So I definitely wanted to do that. I don't know why it was February. I think snow was one of the things, because I always feel for anybody that is out and being homeless or not having a secure, safe home in the winter is far worse. And I think February, I would agree, it's not a great month, is it?
It's a tough month for
And it
sure.
follows January, which also isn't great.
Exactly. And March isn't much better. So
Yeah,
it's kind of like
absolutely.
stuck
Yeah.
right in the middle of bleak and dreary. So it's a great book that you've written here. And I think the folks at home will really, really enjoy it. Your target audience is primarily young adult and above.
A young adult, I think, older teenager, young adult. I
Yeah,
think, I mean, I think parents might enjoy it from a different
agreed.
perspective, but yes, the target audience would be, I would hope, older teenagers. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it kind of pulls back the veil on the lives of teenagers, and parents need to know what's going on, and
Mm,
hopefully
mm,
it helps them connect. And lives can change just like that. It
mhm.
can be 5 days in February. It can be one night.
Absolutely.
Yeah, encounters and connections can be very, very powerful. The name of the book is 5 Days in February. It is a beautifully told story about empathy, change, and the impact of brief encounters. Sheila, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Logan. Thank you.
Great to have you on the show. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.